What's the word, my people? Thanks for tuning in to Total Payout Podcast. This your host, Trouble. And today's date is March 7th, 2026. Okay, and it's a good Saturday. Now we're gonna start off this episode. Obviously, we had one L yesterday, so we always start off eating the crow. We men over here. We don't run from the smoke. We don't duck the smoke. We handle that first. So we did have yesterday our picks was Miami Heat plus 6.5, and then we had the Denver Nuggets money line at home. Man, it got brutal in Denver. Brutal. First quarter looked good. First 3-4 minutes looked great, but after that, when Jamal Murray went down, it was over. I mean, it was over probably before that, but it was over after that. It was over. Not gonna spend too much on that. It's just but obviously it was what it was. To get to the Heat game, like I said, man, too many points for one. Too many points. Too many points. I mean, he did money line them. We took the 6.5. I said, I wouldn't be surprised if they money line them based off the history. Charlotte was hot, but I look at basketball as a DNA thing to me, man, and you got to develop the DNA. And I don't know if Charlotte got the full developed DNA. We know, you know, bits and pieces of Miami got the DNA. Not everybody, but the core tenure of the players has the DNA. Charlotte, they're developing that DNA. They haven't been through the fire. So, I just looked at that game. It's certain, obviously they beat Boston the day before, but we know how that goes. You blow a team out like Boston the way they did the next game. Come on, man. Like that 6.5 points was too juicy for me. It was what it was though. Denver spoiled it. But we'll go ahead and take that 1-1. Is what it is. We broke even. At least we went home with a refund. That's all. A refund is better than taking an L. That's how we look at it. So got two games on deck that we like today. Um, it's kind of crazy in the NBA today. A lot of matchups that kind of look a little awkward. So we kind of dug a little deep today to try to see what we like. College, I'm trying to wait a little bit because today is kind of the last couple games of a lot of the big tournament, the big teams. So I'm going to try to wait a little bit on the college a little bit longer before I really dig into the college games. Now, the two games that we're handicapping today is going to be the Clippers against the Memphis Grizzlies, and then we got the Utah Jazz against the Milwaukee Bucks. So we're gonna do what we do. We're gonna see what our homework comes up with, and we're gonna try to ace this test today. So starting off the first game, we're gonna go ahead and handicap is gonna be the Clippers. Now this is actually their fourth meeting, so this is their final meeting of the season. Obviously, with that being their fourth meeting, all previous meetings that they had were all in the last calendar year. Pretty much like almost like a good 2 weeks apart almost. So we had the first meeting happen November 28th. That was a home game for the Clippers. Memphis came in as a 6.5 point dog. They did win that game straight up 112-107 and went under the total of 224. The second game happened about a week later, December 5th, a home game for Memphis. Memphis was a +2 dog. Memphis did pull that one out as well as a dog, 107-98. It went under 222 in the hook. And then the third meeting was a home game for the Clippers again. Memphis came in +6. Memphis won that game as well as a dog, 121-103 under 229.5. Now, theoretically, we want to believe that obviously they had some, remnants of a Jaren Jackson Jr., probably a John Morant, a couple players that's not there right now were probably playing in those games to give Memphis those edges at that point in time. Now, going over head to head, Clippers are 6-4 straight up last 10, 5-5 against the spread, so they're even against the spread last 10, and then the under has hit 3-7 to the under. The Clippers are 5-0 against the spread last 5, 6-3 straight up last 9 versus Memphis, so they have been handling their business against the Grizzlies. 6-0 last 6 away, so Clippers have been covering the spread away from home, and then they're 9-0 against the spread last 9 against their compadres in the West. The Clippers, they are 3-7 straight up last 10 versus the Southwest, which is what the conference the Memphis Grizzlies are a part of, but they're 4-1 straight up last 5 in March. So Clippers do their thing in March Madness. Now Memphis is 4-1 against the spread last 5 as well. So they've been doing their thing as far as against the spread. Obviously, as a dog, getting a lot of points because they're in tank mode right now. And then you got the Grizzlies coming in 5-5 straight up last 20. They're 2-8 straight up last 10 versus the West, 1-6 last 7 versus Pacific, which is the Clippers conference, and they're 6-14 against the spread last 20 in March, but they're 6-3 against the spread last 9 on Saturday. Now, looking at some things just to kind of do a little bit extra homework. I go deep, but I don't try to get on the channel and nerd everybody out, man. Take a little time. I don't try to make the video super long. This is the Clippers the fifth. This is the Clippers' fifth game in 7 days. So since the turn of the month, March 1st, this is only March 7th. This is the Clippers' fifth game since March 1st. That's crazy. This is their second back-to-back since March 1st. This is their second. They had a game on the first and the second, and then they had a game yesterday against the Spurs, which is a crazy game, and then they have a game today. So this is their second back-to-back, including a game on the fourth in between that. So this is their fifth game in 7 days with two back-to-backs. Crazy. And then now this is Memphis' fourth game in the same time frame, and they've been off though since the fourth. So they had 2 days in between this game. Now the thing that's kind of, because I did read off a lot of Clipper positive spread numbers. So when you look at that, you're like, man, the Clippers balling. They doing their thing. They are, as far as what the spreads read out, what the trends read out. I'm sorry. But looking at what the Clippers are doing, I had to go a little deeper. The thing about that is that the Clippers normally, seeing that previously they had James Harden, Kawhi, Zubac, they had some decent players that you would give some credence to in the NBA. Since February 1st though, when I go back, just kind of like before, I think right before the Harden trade, but right in that time frame where it was going left for the Clippers, they went on a nice little December, January run, got themselves back in playoff contention. They was balling, and then the James Harden wanted to get traded, came out, and then things just went left. Since February 1st, the Clippers have had 5 games only that they've been a favorite. Since February 1st, we're March 7th. Now, they've only covered 2 of those games that they've been a favorite in. That was against Golden State, -1, and then Indiana, I think it was like 2 games ago, right before the Spurs, -11 at home. So the Golden State game was away. The Pacers game was at home for the Clippers. Now, they've been a dog in 10 games since February 1st. Now, what am I getting at? I'm not saying that's not a great thing to cover those spreads, but what I'm saying is that the Clippers went from getting majority of their games as a favorite, not saying they weren't covering any games as a favorite, to almost getting literally getting double the games as a dog now. So the road today for the Clippers is a favorite, not a dog. So if I'm looking at their spreads and they're covering 9-0 and 5-0 and covering all these spreads against the West, that's as a dog. And I'm not saying they can't blow Memphis out, because it's basketball. It can go either way. They can blow Memphis out. Memphis can win on the money line. It's basketball. But the role matters to me when I handicap a lot. The role history, the role at that moment, And so if the Clippers are dogs covering those numbers, and now I have to get them on a back-to-back, get into the Spurs game, that was a crazy, crazy game. And it was one of those games where did they exert a lot of energy to get a win that they know they wanted to get? Not they needed it, obviously. They're trying to make the play in, trying to keep a spot, trying to make the play and keep the position. Do they carry over to the next day, the next game? They were up 25 points. We know mentally, that's a game in the bag in most NBA nights. But last night they lost and they got to wake up the next day. Are they built? We know they got a couple players here and there that's built like that, but as a whole, are they built to wake up the next day and brush that off and go into another city and win? Yeah, Memphis is tanking, but Memphis has been covering spreads. They're the dog. We're not asking them to win no game. We're asking them to cover. So obviously I'm tipping my hat. I went on a little rant. I just had to throw that out there real quick. I'm going with Memphis plus 6.5 at home to cover this spread. Does Kawhi play tonight? Obviously we know Kawhi has a history of sitting out games, whether it be the front end or the back end of a back-to-back. I did state this is the Clippers' 5th game in 7 days. So pity the fool. You be a fool if you don't think Kawhi Leonard don't feel that, or the history of him doesn't feel 5th game in 7 days. Now he might play, but is he gonna be giving you the Kawhi? You know, we know last night, you know, he gave you the Kawhi. Is he gonna give you that today? I don't know, but I know that the young boys in Memphis playing for future. You know, they got all the dudes who don't care, who just there, who want to get traded. They're either injured or gone. The dudes that's there are playing for their future. And not saying they're going to win games or anything, but they're playing competitive basketball. Hence, they're, you know, obviously foreign. I'm not. They're not when they're 2-2 their last four, 2-2 their last four money line straight up, and then they're 4-0 last four against the spread. They're competitive right now. You know, so I'm just asking them not to lose by 7. That's it. That's it. So like I said, we're gonna take Memphis plus the 6.5 in that game. Now let's get to the other tanker game. I'm not gonna call Milwaukee tanking, but we know Utah's tanking. So we're gonna go get to the other game. I know these picks ain't sexy, these games ain't sexy, but we gotta do what we gotta do. Now looking at this game, this is their first game of the season. Utah versus Milwaukee. Head to head, they're as even as you can get. 5-5 straight up last 10. 5-5 against the spread last 10. They are 4-6 to the under. Utah, let's look at their profile. They're 1-7 straight up last 8, 2-5 against the spread last 7 versus Milwaukee, 2-5 straight up last 7, straight up last 7 against Milwaukee. They're 4-2 against the spread last 6 away in Milwaukee, so they actually are decent going into Wisconsin. 7-0 last 7 against the spread versus the East, but they're 2-18 straight up last 20 in March. So Utah is just bad in March Madness. I mean, it's self-explanatory, self-explanatory as far as the trends go. Now Milwaukee, man, 1-4 against the spread last 5, 1-4 straight up last 5, 2-4 against the spread last 6 at home versus Utah, 6-12 against the spread last 18 versus the West, 1-6 straight up last 7 versus the Northwest, which is the conference that Utah is a part of, and Milwaukee is 0-7 straight up last 7 in March. Does not show up in March Madness. So, kind of looking at some things that stuck up. I'm not gonna spend too much on this game because it's obvious, you know what I like. Utah is 7-14 against the spread away from home. Milwaukee is 13-17 against the spread at home. I mean, away, yeah. Utah's 17-14 against the spread away, and then Milwaukee's is 13-17 against the spread at home. Utah is 11-3 against the spread versus the East away from home. So you giving them points against the East Coast away? They're like, dude, we play the West Conference. All the teams over there are dogging the East. So they play the West. The West going against the East most times doesn't bode well when you got the bottom of the West going against the middle to the bottom of the East. So I'm always taking the West every time. Milwaukee is 2-7 against the spread versus the West at home. So you know it hints 11-3. It is what it is. Obviously, I'm taking Utah plus that 11 points. Milwaukee does not deserve to be that big of a favorite against nobody. They can blow them out by 30, and I won't be surprised. But I'm just not taking Milwaukee minus 11 against nobody right now. I'm not saying, like I said the other day when I took Atlanta, Milwaukee might make a 4 or 5 game run within the last 16, 17 games of the season because they have Giannis. You know, they got some players over there that just got pride. But that does not mean that they're going to be blowing teams out either. That you know, it is what it is. Utah has a great profile against the Eastern Conference, you know, and they're getting a boatload, truckload, or however you want to call it, of points, and I'm taking them. You know, I have to roll with the tankers today. I hate to say it like that. You know, obviously I know they're not sexy picks, they're hideous picks as far as record goes, but these are teams that have young talent that's playing for their future, and we're at the end of the season to where the books don't necessarily care in a sense to me, for my opinion, when you have those games where the tankers are playing against teams who, you know, aren't necessarily tanking, but they're not. They know they don't have a, you know, they know they're dead. They're dead men walking. They know they're fish out of water. Milwaukee knows they're not. Even if they make the play-in tournament, are they going to make the playoffs? And if they make the playoffs, are they getting out of the first round? Milwaukee knows this. So to give a team like Utah, who shows up as far as against the East goes, when you're giving them 10+ points every night, they show up. So I'm taking them. So today's pick, like I said, we got Utah against Milwaukee. We got the Clippers against Memphis. We got the Memphis Grizzlies getting plus 6.5 points, taking them. And then we got Utah getting plus 11 against Milwaukee. We taking that. Like I said, once again, I want to thank you guys for tuning in to Total Payout Podcast. It's your host, Trouble. Today's date, March 7, 2026. Go ahead and cash those checks, man. You guys have a great, great, great Saturday. Enjoy your day. Beautiful day. Have a great one. Thank you.
A heavyweight, they be light work. Change my lane on these niggas and it might work.